In episode 6, Alfie wakes up in bed next to Melanie Troy, and he had fun. Seems like she had fun. But it's all it is a fling. At least to Alfie. She might be more attracted to Alfie and have feelings for him, but he's planning on going to America, so he's not getting attached to anything. In fact, when he gets out of bed, the first place he heads is to Thomas Wayne's office and slaps down the money that's required to get him and 2 other people to America. The plan is to leave for America that Friday. Thomas is pretty surprised that Alfie was able to come up with this amount of money this quickly. He actually had a job lined up for him, but he tells Alfie, yeah, I guess you don't really need it. And Alfie does not take the bait. In fact, he tells Thomas, I'm never coming to work for you. And then he heads to the club. After Alfie leaves, Thomas Wayne had a meeting with the new Prime Minister, Aziz. Aziz isn't alone, though. Martha Kane is there as well, and it's a little bit awkward. Their relationship is so frenetic. The reason why Thomas Wayne showed up, though, is because he needs help getting that agent out of the Raven Union. He figures that they can just set it up to look like a kidnapping, but the fact that this scientist was working on Stormcloud could really benefit them. The fact is, though, nobody really knows what Stormcloud is, which is the whole reason of why they need to pull this scientist out as soon as possible. There is one issue that Aziz points to, the fact that the CIA is backing the competition. And Thomas Wayne just tells him that the CIA backs winners, and the League's loss is a foregone conclusion at this point. Thomas tells him, if we can't do something for the League, then what can we do for you, personally? And Aziz does actually have something. He knows that Thomas Wayne is close to Aleister Crowley, even though Thomas Wayne doesn't think they are. At the very least, Thomas Wayne knows how to get in touch with him, knows how to bend his ear, and he wants to get a message to Crowley that John Ripper plans to abduct and murder him. That seems pretty easy for Thomas, so he says consider it done. He then goes into more details about the scientist, the fact that he'll have a couple bodyguards, and that Aziz should consider some really good guys on this job, one of them being Alfred Pennyworth. And Aziz is pretty sure that he'll be able to convince Alfie to do the job. Once Thomas leaves, Martha Kane wants to know what the hell Aziz is thinking. She starts to question him, but then all of a sudden she gets sick to her stomach, and she has to run to the bathroom and puke because she is clearly pregnant. By the time she comes back, she asks, why are we telling Aleister Crowley that he's going to be abducted and murdered? And Aziz says, I thought that was pretty obvious. Ripper wants my job, and I don't want him to have it. Martha Kane eventually leaves. And as Aziz is sitting there, he's trying to think of what he's going to do about this John Ripper situation. Just tipping off Aleister Crowley isn't going to be enough. That's when he gets the idea to send Ripper a message. He traps a fly, tapes it to a pentagram, and just makes it look like something creepy. And he sends it to Ripper, and Ripper thinks that it's from Crowley. So as if John Ripper wasn't already going after Aleister Crowley, now he's really going after him. Meanwhile, Thomas Wayne did his side of the job. He tips off Aleister Crowley, so Aleister Crowley knows to be on the lookout for John Ripper. He prepares for this by putting on some kind of lipstick, drinking some kind of antidote, taking his dog out for a walk, so when Ripper does finally pick him up, he's not all that worried. He kisses John Ripper on the cheek, and then John Ripper starts threatening him, but then all of a sudden, John Ripper just freezes. Crowley stabs Ripper's driver, gets in the front seat, and starts driving him around. While the John Ripper situation was being taken care of, Alfie had to take care of a tough conversation with Sandra. He's finally mustered the guts to tell Sandra that he's going to America and she's not coming with him. So because of that, he's got to end things. She doesn't take it well. She definitely doesn't take it well when he tries to pay her off. It's a very awkward breakup. As Alfie is sitting in the club, going over some books, getting ready for that day, all of a sudden, a bunch of guards come in, secure the place, and that's when Aziz and the Queen show up. This is the first time that Alfie has seen the Queen since they did Adult Fun, and she's not too happy with Alfie for ghosting her. It's also awkward for Alfie because he thought he'd never have to see her again, which is stupid on his part because the Queen is a dime. Well, both Aziz and the Queen sit Alfie down and try to convince him to do this job regarding the scientist. At first, Alfie pushes back, and that's when they let Alfie know that they have some dirt on him. They know that he's sleeping with Gully's wife. He tries to play it off like he's not, but it's a poorly kept secret. He knows that he can't risk this information getting back to Gully, so he has to do the job. Once the Queen and Aziz leave, the first thing he does isn't call Dave Boy. He calls up Melanie Troy. He asks her if Gully's acting weird, and she tells him no. He warns her that she needs to get out of there before he finds out, but it seems like she's going to stay. The next thing he does is go wake up Dave Boy. Alfie tells Dave Boy they have to do one more job for Aziz, and Dave Boy knows that something's up. He starts asking Alfie why they're doing this job, what Aziz had on him, and Alfie doesn't want to come clean. All he wants to tell Dave Boy is it's because of a woman. And right away, Dave Boy knows that it's Melanie Troy. Dave Boy tells him half the club knows, and I can tell you, she's got trouble written all across her forehead in red paint. He then starts giving it to Alfie about how stupid it is to get involved with the wife of Gully Troy because they know what Gully used to do to prisoners. What would Gully do if he found out somebody was having sex with his wife? Deep down, Alfie knows he's right. But at the moment, all he wants to do is get this job done and over with. They're going to have some company, by the way. Martha Kane is coming with them. They know that the scientist is going to be at a diner, so they head there and just pretend to be patrons. Martha tries to make mention of Baza dying, but neither guy really wants to talk about it. And that's when the scientist comes in with 2 guards. Martha goes over to feel the group out, and they're not too friendly. And that's when Alfie and Dave Boy go over. Alfie sits down, and he can recognize that the one guard must be ex-military, so he starts trying to reason with him. Because deep down, Alfie doesn't want to have to shoot anybody or kill anybody. He just wants to take the scientist and get out of there. But this guard is super hard-headed. And it results in a shootout where Dave Boy gets shot because, of course he gets shot. He gets shot in just about every episode. But he's fine. It's just a flesh wound. And the group ends up getting the scientist and getting out of there with a bunch of dead bodies left in this diner. When they get him in the car, it turns out that this scientist, Professor Fox, is pretty rude. He's also pretty frazzled, so they just take him over to Thomas Wayne's office right away. And the sexual tension between Thomas and Martha can be seen in neon. So much so that when Professor Fox gets Thomas alone, he makes mention of the fact that they must have been former lovers. It's kind of uncomfortable, so Thomas gets the topic back on track, which is storm cloud. Fox tells him that it's worse than projected. It could kill the entire population of London with a device the size of a cigarette lighter. The worst part is, it's going to be ready next week. Fox then sounds a lot like Martha Kane. He tells Thomas Wayne that the president needs to step in. He needs to warn Harwood that if he deploys Stormcloud, he's going to end up getting squashed by America. But Thomas toes the company line, saying that what Fox is talking about is worst case scenario, and for the moment, all they can do is pass along the intel. They supply the data, Washington makes the decision, and while Thomas tells Fox that he's confident Washington will do the right thing, Fox doesn't agree with that assessment. He doesn't think they're doing enough. Fox tells him that if the CIA won't act, then he'll do something. And when Thomas says, well, what are you going to do? Fox shoots back, you're the CIA station chief. What are you going to do? And the word of Fox getting kidnapped and abducted has gotten back to Harwood. Salt fills him in on the fact that they know it was Pennyworth, and Harwood mentions how Pennyworth is becoming a thorn in his side. But Salt then mentions a bigger issue, at least in his opinion. He was approached earlier in the day by a lieutenant who is adamant that Frances Gaunt is innocent. And the lieutenant came there to get Salt's help in freeing her, not realizing that Salt was the person who really put her behind bars in the first place. So this lieutenant asked Salt, go to Harwood, talk to him. He listens to you. But instead of doing that, Salt continued to be a rat. He takes Harwood aside and tells him that Gaunt still has friends among them. These friends are pushing to have her pardoned and brought back to power. He knows that Harwood's going to look at these people as traitors, but Salt acts like he doesn't know who they are, he's just hearing whispers. So his suggestion to Harwood is that these people will reveal themselves. Gaunt can't be saved without Harwood, so these traitors are going to have to come to him. And when they do, no matter who they are or how trustworthy they seem, they've just revealed themselves as a traitor and you take care of them. Salt knows the whole time that this lieutenant is going to go to Harwood, and sure enough, he does. He asks Harwood the same thing he asked Salt, to look into Frances Gaunt. But that's when Harwood snaps, beating the crap out of this poor kid and murdering him in front of all of these witnesses. But this kid was really well respected, and this is one mistake too many for Harwood. People have noticed that he's kind of been fraying a little bit, and this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. They arrest him, and with no Frances Gaunt, the second in command was Salt, which means now with no Harwood, Salt is in full command of the Raven Union. Salt wasn't the only one manipulating his bosses, though. Aziz was kind of doing the same thing with John Ripper, who reappears in the League's offices, and he is going through something. Whatever Aleister Crowley gave him, it's like he's in another world. But to the outside, he looks like he's just going through a nervous breakdown. Right before Ripper's taken away, Aziz makes sure to tell him, "It was me that did this to you." And then finally, over in the neutral zone, Alfie and Dave Boy get back to the club, and they're fighting about how that entire kidnapping went down. That's when Alfie's approached by Sandra's father. He gives Alfie the business, then punches him in the face. In a shocking twist, Dave Boy kind of sides with Sandra's dad. Alfie's sick of all of it, and he quickly finds himself at the bar alone. But he's not alone for long, because his mom watched all of that. She approaches her son for the first time since she kicked him out of the house. He apologizes for everything that he's recently put her through. And she knows her son's sorry, but she also knows that trouble has a way of finding him. Can't look after him if he's thousands of miles away. So she agrees to go to America with Alfie. On 3 conditions. No guns, no violence, and Alfie will give her a grandchild. And Alfie agrees. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or 2.